My cousin Colm had always tinkered with machines growing up. He was a mechanic for the RAF now, but in the years before the war, many was the hour I'd sat by his side as he mended and rebuilt various engines. I'd absorbed quite a bit of information in those sessions. Atkinson snorted, and my ire rose once again. I couldn't stop myself from giving him a haughty glare. Contrary to what you believe, it is possible for women to know about things outside of the kitchen. His eyes narrowed at my sarcasm. Right, tell you what, girlie. If you can name me even one part inside that engine, I'll let you change my locks. Do I have your word on that? Sure, he said with a smirk, clearly not considering it much of a risk. I looked at the car, recalling the things Colm had gone on about as he'd discussed the mechanics of luxury cars we'd never be able to afford. It's a Phantom 3? I asked. I saw the surprise flash across his face before he covered it and gave a short nod. A 38. Luckily for me, the Phantom 3 was one of the cars Colm had talked about endlessly. It was that recognition that had drawn my attention to the beauty in the garage in the first place. Even more luckily, I had a memory like a sponge. Then it has a V12 pushrod engine, I said, a dual ignition system and coil spring front suspension. Atkinson was staring at me, his mouth hanging open just a bit. And there's an overdrive gearbox in the 38, I added for good measure. His face went dark red, and I wondered if he was going to renege on his promise to give me the job and send me off with a few choice words. Then, to my surprise, he laughed, a deep, chortling laugh straight from his stomach. You didn't learn that in a kitchen, he said at last, pulling an oil-stained handkerchief from his pocket and rubbing it across his face. No, and I didn't learn locksmithing there either. I know what I'm doing. He scratched his blonde head and gave a short nod. You can start on the office door, he said, jerking his thumb in that direction. I gave an equally short nod in return and moved past him to get to work. He'd made 2 miscalculations this morning. The first thing to know about the McDonnells was that there was always more to us than met the eye. The second was that you should never bet against us. I arrived home a few hours later, dishevelled and dirty. I'd pinned my black hair up atop my head, a kerchief tied around it to keep stray strands out of my face, but a few of my natural curls had begun to escape and spring out in places. I was dusty and oily from the garage. There were dark streaks on my clothes, my hands, and I was sure my face. So I was not at what you might call peak appearance as I entered my uncle's house. "Nacy," I called, "I'm back." Nacy Dean, the woman who had raised me and looked over the McDonnell brood like a mother hen since we were children, was still a live-in housekeeper to my uncle. While I now had a small flat of my own behind the house, I usually gave her an account of my comings and goings, as I had since I was an adolescent. I was especially eager to tell her how I'd put the mechanic in his place. By the time I'd left the garage, Atkinson had been as pleased as Punch with the new locks, and there had been no more mention of how a woman couldn't do a proper locksmithing job. I'd even been given a firm handshake at the close of the deal. It had been almost as satisfying as walloping him on the nose might have been. There was no answering call from Nacy, and I thought she might be in the kitchen. I went in that direction, through the sitting room off the small entrance hall, and stopped short when I saw the figure standing there. "Good afternoon, Miss McDonnell," he said. "Major Ramsey," I replied. My hand moved automatically to push a stray curl behind my ear in a completely useless attempt to tidy myself up a bit. The Major, who worked in the intelligence service in a capacity that had yet to be fully explained, had recruited my uncle and me, so to speak,